Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. I am TechG Prime Z, and today we're going to be covering two support characters that I play in Marvel Rivals. We're going to go over all the abilities, how to use them, and how to elevate your gameplay if you're new to playing the strategist support role. Before we jump into that, don't forget to like and subscribe. All your support really does help, and any feedback you have is appreciated as well. Also, let me know in the comments below what your favorite hero is to play and why. The most commented character I will learn to play, and I'll cover that hero in the next video. Now, let's not waste any more of your time and jump right into the video. So let's cover Sue Storm. We're going to start with the Guardian Shield. By default, it is keybound to the right click. This ability generates a force field in front of a selected ally. The shield can block damage and provide healing over time to nearby allies. I personally like to use this shield when I'm trying to give myself more time when healing a character. However, I use it in aggro situations to cast in front of my teammates that are pushing while I'm behind healing. Which leads me to my next ability, the Veiled Step. By default, it's keybound to the spacebar. This is one of the most important abilities for Invisible Woman player. First off, it's your evade and heal. You use it to get out of sticky situations and to activate your passive healing while you're invisible. Also, it's good to be used as a way to get into hard to reach places, whether that's to get the high ground or that's to be aggressive and reach the enemy opponents in hard to reach places. Next, let's cover Psionic Vortex. By default, it's keybound to left shift. You gather psionic energy and then cast it once it hits its target, or press the ability again and it erupts in a psionic vortex, continuously draining enemies and causing damage. I usually use this ability in a couple of different ways. If we are pushing, I will cast in the middle of an enemy blob while I shield and heal. If I'm a 2v1 with a tank or a duelist, I usually cast the ability just a little in front of them or behind them and use my force physics to either push them back into it or pull them closer to me into the psionic vortex. It all just depends on the situation, which leads me into my favorite ability, the force physics. By default, it's keybound to E. The ability manipulates psionic energy to push or pull enemies in front of you. What I like to do is use this to push the enemy, then evade if I am by myself. If I'm with my team, I use this for doing extra damage and placing my vortex strategically so I can then push my foes into it or pull them into it. Like I said earlier, if an enemy is evading, I use it to pull them to my teammates for extra DPS. If we're attacking and pushing, I will use it to push them off the point. Really, each situation is different, and I use a mix of these strategies. So Sue Storm's ultimate ability is Invisible Boundary. By default, it's keybound to Q. You manifest an unseen force field within an area that you choose, which makes your teammates inside undetectable by enemies and provides healing over time. Enemies that are in or pass through it are slowed. Passive ability you have as Invisible Woman is Covert Advance. You enter an invisible state after about 4 to 5 seconds of no combat, which makes you undetectable by enemies and grants yourself healing over time. The next passive ability comes with your team up with Mr. Fantastic, called Fantastic Force or Fantastic. This formidable force bolsters Mr. Fantastic, granting damage resistance. Once activated, they can continually generate bonus health, making up for lost health. The next ability you have is not usually shown on your screen, but by default is the V key. It does a 3-hit combo which ends a push. So if foes are getting in your face and your abilities are blown, you can use this as a way to push the enemy away and escape. I personally keybind this to my mouse 5 button. Overall, I have really enjoyed playing Invisible Woman. This character really encompasses my playstyle and allows me to be slightly aggressive as a healer and have a good escape. Another reason I like playing her is for the fact that you always have to be thinking a few moves ahead, kind of like a chess match. It makes for interesting tactics and situations. Don't get me started on if my other healer is a Cloak and Dagger. Probably one of my favorite team compositions as an Invisible Woman player. However, Rocket is good as well, which leads me into my next strategist main, Cloak and Dagger. So first we'll start with Cloak's abilities and move into Daggers. Cloak's main attack is the Dark Force Cloak. When you switch over to Cloak, he impedes continuous damage to the enemy. You can multiply this damage by using Terror Cape. Terror Cape is usually keybound to E, and it deploys a veil of dark force to damage enemies upon touch, which applies a blind to narrow the enemy's field of view. It also makes them susceptible to amplified damage received. Then you have Dark Teleportation. Usually keybound to the right click, you enshroud nearby allies in the dark force dimension, plunging them into a phase state, making them untargetable and invisible to enemies, and granting them a movement boost. Then you have Light's Embrace, usually keybound to left shift, and is how you shift to Dagger. Now let's talk about Dagger and her abilities. So you have Shadow's Embrace, usually keybound to left shift, which switches you back to Cloak. Then you have Dagger Storm, usually keybound to right click, which launches a volley of daggers creating a healing over time in the impact area that you designate. Then you have a Veil of Light Force, usually keybound to E, which deploys a light wall, which provides healing upon touch and provides a health boost. Then you have Eternal Bond for both Cloak and Dagger that is usually keybound to Q. You perform 4 rapid dashes that heals allies and damages enemies that are in the path. Primary attack for Cloak provides healing to characters you aim at and does damage to enemies you aim at by throwing daggers at them. So just to go over some tactics that I personally use, let's say that I'm getting pushed and I have a tank and a DPS right next to me. I'll switch to Cloak and do a Terror Cape to blind my enemies. Then I'll do some damage with my primary attack while keeping an eye on my teammates' health. Once they get to 1/4 or to half, I switch back to Dagger. Do Dagger Storm to buff their healing, and then use my primary to keep those around me healed up. I will rinse and repeat this on various situations, with my primary goal to keep my teammates' health above half or 3/4 health. Then let's say we are pushing the point and the enemy team is grouped together. Usually I will use my ultimate to push the point further and prevent the tanks from getting on the point and provides damage to their team, but healing to my team. In closing, I really enjoy the Strategist class, or support role. However, I will say that you should try to learn all characters, which is why if you guys comment a character, I'll learn to play them. It's important to me to practice what I preach. Also, because it gives you a good understanding of how to counter those characters. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. And if you want to catch me live as I climb the ranks, I play Marvel Rivals on Mondays at 8 p.m. Central Daylight Time and Saturdays at 4 a.m. Central Daylight Time. All right, guys, have a great one and see you in the next one. Peace.